Hello photographers. Today we're talking about how to get everyone in focus in a group photo. Getting everyone in focus in a group photo is something I get asked about all of the time, so let's break down how to do this. There are 3 elements to ensuring everyone in your group photo is in focus. Those elements are depth of field, where you focus, and your lens. First and foremost, you have to be aware of the depth of field for your image. Depth of field is the distance between the nearest object in focus in the image and the farthest object in focus. In this example, the 1st and 2nd Army guys are in focus, and if we look at this from above, we can see that the distance between them is 2 inches. That tells us that the depth of field for this image is 2 inches. When posing a group for a portrait, you layer them, and this puts them at different distances from the camera. If you want all of the people in your group in focus, you need to make sure your depth of field is great enough so that all of the people in your group fit inside of that area. Doing this is actually pretty easy. You just need to calculate your depth of field, and you don't actually have to do any math. All you need is a depth of field calculator app like this one. To use the depth of field calculator, you need to know 4 things: the distance from the camera to the subjects, the focal length of the lens, the aperture setting that will be used, and the distance between the nearest and the farthest people you want in focus. In the app, you input your aperture setting, focal length, and camera distance, and it will tell you the depth of field you will get. Here's an example. I have my buddy set up for a group photo. My camera is 20 inches from them as measured from the sensor location in my camera, which is notated by this symbol. The focal length of my lens is 30 millimeters. The aperture setting is f2.8, and I need a depth of field of 2.4 inches. In the depth of field calculator, you choose your camera, input the camera to subject distance, focal length, and aperture setting, and it tells me that the depth of field for the image will be 0.13 inches. Then compare that to the distance you measured between the nearest and farthest people you want in focus. If the depth of field given by the app is equal to or greater than the measurement that you took, then you are good. If the depth of field given by the app is less than the measurement you took, then you need to make an adjustment. In my example, the depth of field given by the app is 0.13 inches, and the depth of field I need is 2.4 inches. This tells me that I need to make an adjustment, and that's backed up by the photo that I took with these settings where the rear subjects are clearly out of focus. The easiest setting to adjust is the aperture, which you can use to manipulate the depth of field without having to change the composition of the image by moving the camera or changing the focal length. In my case, I'm going to change the aperture from f2.8 to f7.1, and when I input that into the app, I get a depth of field of 2.4 inches, which matches the depth of field that I need. If changing the aperture wasn't enough, I could move the camera farther away from the subjects and or widen the focal length of the lens. Now, you don't have to have a depth of field calculator to do this. You can guesstimate, adjust your settings, take test photos, and check the sharpness. But using the app will definitely be more precise and more efficient, especially if you're not comfortable estimating this. Once you have the depth of field figured out, you need to figure out how to correctly focus. But real quick before we talk about focus, I wanted to let you know that I put all of what I'm sharing in this video into a free cheat sheet that you can get at this link right here. One of the things people don't often realize is how the depth of field area manifests. Without thinking about it, people assume that the depth of field moves from the point of focus back into the image, but that's actually incorrect. Instead, the depth of field area extends in front of and behind the focus point. Because of this, you need to ensure that when you focus, there's enough depth of field behind the point of focus to have everyone in the group be in focus. In my example, the depth of field area is 2.4 inches, and in the app, it tells us that the depth of field extends 1.1 inches in front of the point of focus and 1.3 inches behind the point of focus. What that means is that even though I have a depth of field area that will encompass all of my subjects, if I focus on the front subject, my back subjects will be out of focus. In order to have all of my subjects in focus with my current depth of field, I need to focus somewhere in between the front and back subjects. In a group with several layers of people, you could focus on someone in the middle of the group, but you need to make sure the depth of field will extend far enough in front of and behind the person you focus on. The other thing you can do is manipulate the depth of field so that you can focus on the front subject and still have enough depth of field field behind them. In my case, I want a depth of field that extends at least 2.4 inches behind the point of focus. When I go back to the app and change my aperture to f14, I find that I have a total depth of field of 4.7 inches, with 2.1 inches extending in front of the point of focus and 2.6 inches extending behind the point of focus. With this, I know I can safely focus on the front subject and get a group photo that has everyone in focus. This is where the depth of field calculator is really valuable because it saves you time guessing where to focus, and it allows you to easily plan to focus on your front subject while still having everyone else in the group in focus. And that brings us to our last element, which is the lens itself. One of the problems lenses can have is a reduction in quality and sharpness of the image towards the edge of the lens. In addition to that, at the edge of the lens, you can also pick up distortions that can make your subjects' heads look warped and stretched in weird ways. How much quality loss you'll get varies wildly from lens to lens. Generally speaking, cheaper lenses are more likely to have quality loss at the edges, while more expensive lenses are less likely to have that quality loss. And generally speaking, zoom lenses are more likely to have quality loss at the edges, while prime lenses are less likely. Because this varies so wildly, this is something you have to check and test with your own lenses. And if you're ever unsure of the edge quality of a lens, a good way to ensure that everyone is in focus is to not compose so tightly that you have subjects at the edges of the lens. If you frame the shot wider with the intention to crop for the composition you want, you can maintain the sharpness and reduce the distortion of your subjects. Getting everyone in focus in a group photo isn't hard. You just need to know the depth of field you want and how to get it, where to focus so that your group is in the depth of field area, and to be aware of the edge quality of your lenses. And remember, I put all of this together into a free cheat sheet that you can get at this link right here, and that cheat sheet includes links to depth of field calculators that work on all platforms. If you have any questions about any of this, let me know in the comments. And I have a question for you while you're down there. Who is your favorite superhero? Let me know in the comments, and that's where I'll also be sharing my favorite superhero. And do me a favor and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and make sure you hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of my videos, and then get out there and take some damn photos. Figuring out what, and then adjusting the oh my God. And have enough depth of field behind in my case, I want a depth of field that extends at least 2.4 inches behind the point, me up. Thank you for watching. Now, I get loads of questions and they all boil down to one thing, which is how do I make my camera do what I want it to do? And here's the thing, your camera is like an instrument, and you can't make music if you can't play your instrument. If you want to learn how to play your camera like the instrument it is, visit this link right here to check out my Guide to Shooting in Manual Mode video course.